by Mr. Darko Beats.
Welcome back and welcome in New York, episode 152, 153 at this point, something like that. Another one of those ones for the boys where we're in the car on the way home after a match. I think a lot of emotions, and we walked out with our first win of the season. It was kind of clench time at the end of the game with O'Toole getting that very silly red card, bear hugging the Orlando player. But like all around, I think just a good day to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the club and bring back all those kind of feelings of nostalgia.
I don't know if it was the opponent or the atmosphere. It just felt like going back in time. You know, obviously there's like RJ Allen, Poku, Tony Rocha, who, you know, maybe not the biggest name in club history, but certainly for guys like us who were looking for an opportunity to talk to any player that would have come onto our show, and he was kind enough to give us his time. So, you know, he's big in our NYCFC story. So all of those things combined, it just felt like, I don't know, just a really good day to be out there and to go out with a win. That's huge.
Yeah, the win is the thing to talk about tonight, and I don't know what the best way for us to be, or us to lead into kind of the Pirlo audio, but that was, I think, one of those moments that we've had. It definitely makes things feel a bit more real. I think a lot of times we just feel like we're kind of on the sidelines with everybody else as fans, but it was cool to get his perspective, and we'll run that clip over what we're talking about here. Hey Andrea, when you arrived, obviously things were really new here in MLS and with NYCFC. How does it feel to you personally to be back in New York for the club's 10th anniversary?
È sempre bello tornare. Sono onorato che la New York City abbia invitato per i 10 anni. Comunque qua è sempre un piacere, mi sento a casa, sono sempre stato accolto con grandissimo entusiasmo e quindi tutte le volte che posso torno volentieri.
Every time I can, I'll be happy to come back. It was a pleasure and an honor to be invited here for the 10th anniversary. I was always treated very well. The fans have been great, so it's always a coming home for me when I come to New York.
Thank you. But just sharing kind of the same sentiments, it's interesting how he kind of feels similar to how a lot of us feel, with just the way that we've seen the club grow over the past 10 years, both off the field and on the field, has been kind of a really gratifying experience, I guess. And for all of us that were really at the ground floor, it was great to get in on something on the ground floor and then to see what it's become, the trophies that we've earned along the way. It really, you know, the whole night kind of culminating in what was 10 years of history of the club was a great thing to reflect on.
The coolest thing was, for both of us, that was our first time being on the field at Yankee Stadium. I mean, obviously for you, you know, being a Yankees fan, it takes it even to a higher level of just like a cool moment. So on the night, we couldn't be happier. I guess we wanted to lean more into kind of the game and how it shaped up. You said it early on that you were seeing us going in and scoring multiple goals in this game, coming out with, you know, maybe multiple goal scorer in Alonso, and you had really high hopes for the game. Do you think that it kind of lived up to what you thought it would be on the way in?
Through the first 60 minutes, absolutely not. I mean, it was a pretty boring game. There were, you know, obviously some battles in the midfield, and we're not going to get out of this episode without having a lengthy discussion about Johnny Shore and sort of the player that he's managed to become in such a short amount of time. But aside from kind of watching him grow on the field in that first half and, you know, probably first 15 minutes of the second half, there wasn't a lot to really take home. For whatever reason, I did feel like we were going to kind of just smash Orlando. I thought the emotions of the home opener, the first Yankee Stadium game in a long while, because we played, I think, our last playoff game at Citi Field, and then the combination of the celebration with the 10th anniversary, it felt like we were going to come in, and I think maybe the fans were a bit more up for it necessarily than the players seemed to be when they stepped out there. I don't know if there was a little bit of anxiety with opening at the home opener. I know we have some new younger players that are in the mix that kind of are dealing with that for the first time, but somebody like Johnny Shore, I mean, he came in and he just kind of took the bull by the horns, as they say. Like he was the best player on the field. He got man of the match for it, and it was very well deserved.
I thought we did definitely start slow in terms of creating chances, but I do think that we were really good in possession. I just think that we were missing the final, pass or the final moment to kind of make everything that we're creating actually be dangerous. Like, you go back to moments where O'Toole and Hannes are playing multiple triangles to each other to open up space and create a chance. Like, these are things that I don't necessarily think we've seen from the team in the 2 games leading up to this. And so I don't know if that kind of lends itself to Pascal getting in there and really starting to get his hands on the team and have them molded to what he wants from them, or if it's like that old saying that everyone likes to bring up, which is our style of play really, really lends itself to the size of the field at Yankee Stadium. I don't know which one it really is. I'm hoping that it's, Pascal's ideas and philosophies kind of getting into these guys' head, because it works. Like, at the end of the day, we get a dub from it, but we don't ultimately end up opening up the scoring record until Maxey sends a shot, which I personally think should be counted as an assist. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Somebody can argue with me in the comments about why that's not an assist, but it comes off of Maxey's boot, ends up in the back of the goal as a result of an Alonso shot, which to me, when you say that in a row, that lends itself to Maxey assist. I don't know. That's, I guess, a debate for me in the books.
Yeah,
over at FanDuel. But
sounds like the makings of an email to customer support.
Yeah, for them to just be like, those are not the rules. Simply, but yeah, that opens up the scoring. Leading up to that goal, did you think that Alonso was like the most dangerous player out there, or was it coming from a different area? Where did you kind of see the attack being focused from?
Not really. No, I guess is the short answer. Alonso definitely didn't feel like the most dangerous player out there. It seemed like everything was running through Maxey, who again had a really great game. I mean, the ability between him and Shore to kind of manage that midfield from like an attacking and defensive perspective is something that really can't go unnoticed. But it felt like a lot of things were coming from Julian, although he didn't end up, or did he get the assist on Hannes' goal?
He did.
He did, yeah. So he did end up on the stat sheet in one way or another. But it felt like everything was coming from that side, and I'm not sure whether that's because they were overproducing, or if on the left side it was just so dead that all you really could take from it was the right side. And the culprit of that, we're now 3 episodes deep, and I think 3 episodes in a row talking about kind of the hole or the black hole that it feels like Hannes is on that left side. Unfortunately or fortunately, he did his best Mohamed Salah impression, and he was able to kind of put in a stinker, but he gets that goal, and then all of a sudden the foot mob rating gets you in the high 8s or whatever for a goal.
Yep.
That, is essentially really just a tap in and was created in a broken play and by another player that was able to put it right on his head. But that in itself is kind of an interesting story.
Yeah.
Those keenly aware that keep an eye on NYCFC social media, Augustin was supposed to start over Hannes, and right before pregame, it seemed, or right before they came out for warm-ups, honestly, we got the notification from their Twitter that Augustin had been replaced by Hannes.
Right.
And somebody replacing Hannes, whoever it is, whether that's Julian or Augustin or Malachi when he comes back, is something that we've been calling for now for a few weeks. So it finally felt like that was the break, like that was what we were most excited about when we saw the lineup. But it seems like Augustin kind of squandered an opportunity to potentially earn a starting role here.
Yeah, and I guess I'll tee up the audio. You asked Pascal after the game kind of what led to that decision. We were thinking maybe a slight knock or something tactical or whatever that Pascal saw. It actually turns out that you'll hear the answer in a second.
Hey, Coach. Adam with Post 90. Congrats on the first win.
Thank you.
Just wondering what caused that pregame lineup change between Hannes and Augustin, and how you think that affected the rest of the game.
It's very simple. Unfortunately, Agu was too late. So that's when he lost his spot, and Hannes came back into the team. And that's what I told my boys from day one. My approach is team first always. And he was very unfortunate, but those things happen, and then you have to deal with the consequences. And he did okay by assisting the team when he was needed to come off the bench.
Thank you.
Augustine was ultimately late to showing up to the game today, and as a result of that was pulled from the starting lineup. There's two things I want to talk about in relation to that. One being how refreshing it is for a coach to just give a direct answer, tell the full honest truth, and give us a real idea of what's going on. I'm not sure how that will necessarily affect his relationship with Augustine, but at the end of the day, your punishment was being pulled from the lineup, and people now know why. Those two things, either kick you into motion to get your shit together and just be on time, or we all find out that Augustine just has that issue, has a personality issue of some sort, and ultimately he gets weeded out the way that others have in the past.
It's so unlucky too that Hannes goes on and scores that goal. You really teed up this opportunity for the man that you're in competition with for a starting role in the team. And it's kind of like when it rains it pours situation. Hannes gets that goal. I don't see how if you're Pascal that you start Augustine, or you don't find a way to start Hannes now that you got the goal, because he even spoke in the presser. Somebody else had asked him a question about, does this seem like it might be a tipping point for Hannes, who has otherwise kind of had a rough time, and Pascal said he hopes so. So to me, that is kind of an indictment that he'll be starting Hannes to hope that this goal can kind of generate more production for him, whether that's from a confidence standpoint or whatever it is. So, I mean, that if you're an Augustine fan, you got to be gutted, because he essentially just screwed himself, at least for a stretch of games. I don't see how, unless Hannes absolutely sucks next game, I don't see how you move away from the Augustine. And
right.
You would think the punishment has to be more than just one game too, right?
Possibly, but Pascal is showing that if you're very good in training, you're gonna get opportunities. He said that with Johnny Shore, who we'll get into, Justin Hack, some of these players that maybe are fringe players.
Yep.
That are getting the opportunities because they're good in training. So Ojeda's going to have his opportunity to get back in the lineup, but it does seem like it was always we're benching Hannes with the hopes that lights a fire under him and he starts performing better. And it was always going to be Hannes in the end. It sucks for Ojeda to, like you said, give the person that you're chomping at his ankles to get into the game. You give him that opportunity again to come in, and he capitalizes on it, and he has every right to start next week against the Revs. He did earn a start next week, barring injury or a terrible week in training. It sucks to be Ojeda in this moment, but you got to take it and let it be your fire. Don't let it continue to be an issue, and just hope that it's not something that you alluded to it being possibly a long-standing issue. I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, I'll let the streets correct me if I need to be corrected, but I know kind of in the way that we're the Justin Hack guys in the NYCFC community, Blue Balls are like the Augustine guys in the community. And when they were first brought on, I remember Trey and Jake on their episode kind of recapping that transfer and why they think it was such a good transfer. And why they're really fans of the player that Augustine is. They talked a little bit about how he had some issues at his last club, sort of in the same vein of this. We don't know exactly what the issue was, but it seemed like at the time the manager had alluded to the fact that there were some off-field issues that were having effects on the amount of playing time that Augustine was being given. There was no injury involvement that was keeping him out. It was just that, I think specifically the coach said something about maturity. When you think of off-field issues and maturity, the thing that comes to mind for me is not meeting your responsibilities of potentially training or showing up to games, which is something we've now seen here. It's probably worth mentioning that this is the first time that we've at least been told that that was something that happened. We didn't hear about that all in last season, and he's been with us for a while now. So hopefully, if that was something that he struggled with in the past, that it doesn't start to kind of show that character here as well.
Right. Pivoting, I guess, to another player that was plugged into this lineup that nobody was expecting. I think, we were lucky enough to be in the press box when the news of Johnny Shore starting was put onto the internet, and we all learned together that he was going to get his first start. And we were kind of all looking around like, is this guy crazy? Is he really going to start a literal child in our home opener? I was shocked, but it kind of makes sense when you think of, Burke being hurt, or not hurt, but sick, Pereira being out of the lineup for being injured, having Hack have to slide into that center back role. It makes sense. I don't think any of us expected maybe I shouldn't say masterclass, but masterclass that Johnny put on. I mean, for a 17-year-old, he looked confident on the ball. He was strong in his tackles. He was good with his decisions. The only knock that we could really give him, we were talking about during the game, was the tendency to kind of allow himself to hide behind a defender and kind of make himself disappear in the game so that he doesn't have to be in those big moments. And I think if he were offering himself as an option a little bit more often, he would have taken his game from like an 8.5 to 9 or 10 with some of those points. But talk about kind of how you saw Johnny's performance.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. The kid, really besides that being the only thing that is holding him back, the only thing would be like his age and like his physicality, and just in terms of like size. We mentioned too during the game to each other, like he has 8 more years to grow. Like, can you imagine if this kid adds like 6 inches to his height and like 50 pounds, sort of something like we've seen with Justin Hack when he's filled in at that CDM role? That like that's the making of a James Sands. That's the making of a new James Sands. The kid, gets stuck in all his tackles. Very, very positive passing percentage. He doesn't not take care of the ball. He takes care of the ball extremely well. He looks good. He looks up the field as well. I know in the past, some of the pet peeves that you mentioned of players is kind of the tendency to turn around and always be looking behind them to try to kind of bail out of tough situations, but he looks forward as well. Tries to distribute the ball, or if he doesn't feel like there's a good option, he drives it himself. And I mean, I feel like the ceiling can really only go up for this kid. I'm interested to see, as we work out the rest of the season, like how much time he ends up getting. You kind of mentioned it. This was more of a lineup decision out of necessity. So like when Burke is healthy and Hack is demanding a spot, in our opinion, Hack's demanding a spot. He got that man of the match the first week of the season, but otherwise has been more or less lights out. There's a few moments that you can complain about, but there's really a few moments that you can complain about with everybody on this team. So I don't know what you do. I would hate to sit a 17-year-old kid that is, really generating his story as a player when you don't have to.
Right.
So I don't know what you do. If you're Pascal, it's tough.
Well, in the same way that, Hannes went and earned another start, you almost have, man of the match on your home debut as a 17-year-old kid, like that to me,
it's crazy.
You have it. Yeah, it's crazy to say, but that to me demands a start. Like,
so I'll say you as a person, and then we can talk about what we think Pascal will do. But if Burke is healthy and Thiago is going to go as well, is Hack being sat next game?
No, you said Burke.
You said Burke.
Burke, to me, I've said it so many times on this show, but availability is your best ability. And Justin Hack, in all of his starts so far, has clearly demanded a starting role. Like, beyond the, Hana scoring a game winner and Johnny coming in and having a really, really good performance. Separate from all that, Justin Hack in 3 games, really outside of 3-4 mistakes here and there, really hasn't put a foot wrong. He's done his assignment. He's played really well. He's got a good mentality. You do not take that kid out of the lineup. He should be starting every single game at this point. There's no reason for him to be taken out of the lineup. And so Burke kind of screwed himself. I mean, it sucks to get sick, but it seemed like Maxi was sick as well.
And played
a full 90 minutes. Old as hell. Out there hobbling around.
I didn't want to be the guy to say it, but like, I don't know. I mean, your sickness does have to be pretty bad, I guess, to not play.
Kobe dropped how much on the flu game?
Was it Kobe? I thought that was MJ, the flu game thing.
Nah, Kobe flu game. I think. I don't know. I'm not a big basketball head, but
Well, I mean, confirmed Burke is no Kobe. That
correct. And like, that's
not just for this, but just
and it's no shade
Nobody is
to
Kobe.
Burke, but at the end of the day, I don't see how you can take Justin Hack out of the lineup for Burke, who consistently is inconsistent in his availability. You just can't do it. So I would easily start Hack over Burke. Easily start Johnny again. Give him a shot, another one at home. Let him grow in confidence and see where that kid can go.
Yeah, and I think you're right too with the availability thing with Burke is if you start investing minutes in him and then he does have to go out again, like that's now kind of sunk cost that you've lost that you
From
could have
Hack.
otherwise been giving to Hack
Right.
to kind of continue to generate and stand up his form. So I would have to agree. I mean, Hack at this point, he has he's fully demanded a spot in this 11, and it was, really something that he kind of manifested last season. I know we had hopes of asking him tonight about his comments last season and how he feels now that things have kind of really come to fruition for him in these first 3 games, and whether or not he feels vindicated. I think that's a soundbite that we're looking to capture, at the next home game potentially, or whenever the situation is right this season, and kind of give him the opportunity to really express some of that moxie that makes Hack who he is, because I think we could potentially get a good answer there about both how he feels about the club giving him a shot now, like a true shot, and then how he feels that he's kind of taken it by the horns too, and like became what I think for a long time us and some other Hack supporters have really seen in him as a player.
Yeah, definitely. So we're looking forward to, obviously, the Revs coming up this weekend at home, Yankee Stadium, another home game. We're going to evaluate our schedule, see if we're going to be able to make it out to that one. With us having 4 points in 3 games, where's your head at in terms of the season? Do you think we're on pace for your predictions? Overachieving, underachieving? Where are you at?
I think if you look at it on paper, it feels like we're underachieving. I would definitely like through 3 games to have more than 4 points. I think we should have edged out a win against Miami, or at least a draw against LAFC. So, I'd like to have at least 5. I think if we had 6, we'd be over the moon. But the schedule, at least, it softens up a bit with the Revs, and then it gets a bit harder with Atlanta again. But kind of same thing to you. What do you think?
I mean, it's not ideal. I wouldn't say it's ideal, but when we're looking at it from 3,000-foot view, we were going into the season looking at our schedule in the opening, few games and thinking, wow, it's going to be really tough to kind of get results out of that. So I almost think it's the opposite. I think it's a positive thing. Positive Andy over here, always trying to find something positive in every situation. But look, 4 points out of 3 games where realistically, you're going into Miami thinking that's lucky to get a draw. Going into LAFC, knowing that it's going to be difficult to get a result. In Orlando, with the additions that they've made, the push that they've made in the past, like, still a tough game even though it's a home opener. So I look at it as not overachieving, but getting more than I thought was really possible, truly, looking at it objectively. So I think we're in a better spot than I think we ultimately would have been.
Than you expected us.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. Excited for the Revs game. For whatever reason, like you said, with the smaller field, and I pray that that's not the reason that we get results at home.
Yeah.
Because that would be really sad. But I always like our chances at home. It feels like we are the best team that we can be whenever we play at home, and who knows what type of voodoo exists that causes that to happen with teams when they play home games. But the Revs are certainly no LAFC. They're no Miami, and they're probably a little bit closer to Orlando in terms of strength. So if we can find a way to edge out another 3 points, that would be huge. Obviously, we're going to be without Kevin O'Toole. I don't know exactly what the lineup looks like with O'Toole out of it. It might be a 1-for-1 Cavallo sub-in. I would like that personally.
I would too.
I would love that. I'm hoping it doesn't become like what we saw at the end of this game with Hanez shifting his way to left back.
Oh yeah, please God no.
To find a way to get Augustine in the lineup because you were going to give him that chance and then you couldn't just because of the off-field stuff. So that would be a nightmare. Hopefully at Cavallo. I feel like it's Cavallo time. If that's the case and we're at the stadium, obviously I think we want to have a good conversation with him about things. And we mentioned in our preseason episodes that's probably an episode that we're shooting to bring you guys at some point this season if we can. So it'd be cool. I'm just enjoying seeing these kids that have been put in honestly what are pretty tough situations and like excelling. It's that is the most exciting thing about being a fan of a club, is like when the pipeline works.
Yeah, definitely. And I would be interested to see, this was probably one of our lowest average age lineups like ever, maybe, possibly. And so to go and get a win, super, super big. Hoping to get another 3 points. Let's make it 7 and 4.
7 and 4 sounds
And,
a lot better than 4 and 3.
Yeah, you definitely want it to be more than 1 per, which is good to have 4 and 3. But yeah, looking forward. Hopefully we're gonna be there. I mean, that's the ideal to make it work. But yeah, we'll see you guys after the Revs. I did forget, if you've got it to this point, obviously, you've liked the video enough to go ahead and drop a like. If you could hit the subscribe button if you're here at this point, you like our content. So you definitely want to be notified when we post. So we'll see you guys next week following Revs. We'll see you guys. Peace.
Yes, thank you. Peace.
Produced by Mr. Darko Beats.